Hey, this is Josh, developer of One More Run. Today, I'm finally getting to announce something I honestly never thought I'd get to. One More Run is getting multiplayer. There's been many requests for that, and time again, I've said, probably not. But here we are. Maybe I'll regret this later, but it is up to 8 players, with the asterisk that it's going to be balanced around the 4-player experience, and then people who want the chaos, they can go higher than that. Before we get into the details of it beyond that, I'd like to explain a bit about how we got here. The original One More Run engine was built for a much smaller game than what we have now. Over time, that started creating artificial limits, especially around performance, visuals, and the kinds of systems that I want to build for the game. It's growing into a true sandbox game, and it needs a new engine that can support that performatively. At the same time, requests like multiplayer that really necessitated building something from the ground up, so I saw a win in a few different areas. So for Season 3, One More Run is moving to an entirely new client built on a completely different engine. And honestly, the performance results have been incredible so far. That really was my focus from the very start of this, just profiling every step of the way to make sure performance is finally solved, because I know that has been a huge pain point over the last year of this game's demo. That's also really unlocking new visual effects across the board. I'm adding them where I see opportunities, so you'll see plenty of legacy visuals, but over time you'll see the visual quality of the game significantly improve thanks to this new engine. The engine's playable right now through the experimental branch on the Discord, and over the next month or so, I want to get as much testing and feedback as possible before Season 3 launches, because this is a full replacement. I'm not going to support the legacy engine and the new engine at the same time. I think that's just, holding on to technical debt that we don't necessarily need. Now on to the multiplayer itself. This rebuild gave me an opportunity to also rebuild the game simulation at a fundamental level. It's now based on a deterministic tick-based system, which is a must for any multiplayer functionality. That said, this is true host authoritative multiplayer with its own bespoke netcode. There's no locked into a specific screen region or dependence on remote play together or anything like that. The entire sandbox of One More Run is fully explorable to every player on their own during a multiplayer session. And thus far, I'm very happy with how the netcode's performing, but we're going to continue tuning that. And if you'd like to be a part of that testing as well, feel free to join the Discord and you can help out. Multiplayer runs are scaled by player. This isn't just a graft of the single-player experience. There are unique features for multiplayer, and down the road, bosses will have unique mechanics that require players to work together. So the multiplayer experience is going to gradually be fleshed out into something that truly feels purpose-built, as opposed to just the single-player experience with more players. Over time, this will create a very different experience that is a bit more chaotic and leads to some hilarious moments. During testing, we had a fun time where Alpha Charger decided to deny revival, and it was so hilarious. I loved it. Multiplayer definitely isn't the only major change coming in Season 3. One of the biggest goals for this update was to dramatically expand build diversity. Right now, most classes support a handful of meaningful playstyles, depending on what weapon you choose, and then a few kind of sub-playstyles within that weapon. But that's changing in a big way. Season 3 adds more than 90 new skill tree nodes across the classes. Nearly half of these are major nodes that introduce entirely new mechanics, interactions, or build-defining upgrades. Even the minor nodes are designed to create meaningful decisions and push builds into distinct directions, rather than serving as simply travel nodes. I'd rather have a dense, mechanically interesting skill tree than a skill tree that's just extremely large for the sake of visuals. To show what I mean, let's take a look at the Mage. Mage has always been one of the mechanically densest classes in the game, and with Season 3 that depth is expanding significantly, while also returning a feature from Season 1 that I know Mage mains missed. Players can now specialize in combinations of elements, unlocking entirely new hybrid mechanics built around those pairings. For example, if I combine fire and lightning, I unlock the red lightning upgrade. a system built around chaining burning effects with lightning damage to then build up a massive red lightning discharge. Meanwhile, combining ice and lightning unlocks Tempest. This creates a powerful area denial playstyle that escalates as long as you maintain both elements simultaneously. As someone personally who enjoys playing a bit more defensive mage, I can say I am extremely excited for Tempest. I think it's going to be a very interesting playstyle. Almost like a control build, and that really psychs me up. I also didn't want dual elements to become mandatory though, so single elements have gotten a lot of love for Mage. Single element specializations still provide the highest raw damage output, while hybrid builds offer more flexibility and utility. Beyond that though, each elemental specialization can now unlock elemental variants of other spells that fundamentally change how they behave. These aren't just reskins of the spell either though. Each one introduces unique mechanics, so there's a lot to experiment with here. Other classes are receiving similarly major expansions, although maybe not with quite as much mechanical depth as the mage. The fighter, for example, has always been a brute force class, and so a lot of the skill tree expansions there focus on that. Now, if you're balance-minded, you're probably already realizing that these systems at this scale are going to require a lot of testing. So, over the coming weeks, I'll be temporarily enabling the new skill trees on a week-by-week basis, 1 week per class. So, if you'd like to help test and get a preview of what Season 3 gameplay is going to be like, jump into the experimental branch, and the schedule should actually be up on the screen by now, so that you can see when your favorite class will be available to test. Next up, another major addition with Season 3. There's 2 new slots on the loadout screen. The first is the core slot, which is tied directly to the Anomaly community event currently going on. I'm intentionally avoiding spoilers here because a significant portion of the season's content revolves around the completion of that Anomaly event. Once the Anomaly has fully materialized, players will begin unlocking ways to interact with the core slot. So for now, it's kind of a big teaser. Sorry about that. The second slot, though, is something I can talk about today. Firmware. Firmware is a new module system built around meaningful trade-offs. One of the original design philosophies behind One More Run was that I want core character behavior to always emerge from the equipment, never from hard-coded class defaults. Class abilities broke that design philosophy though, so that's being resolved with firmware. As you can see here, the properties of the Mage's spellcasting ability are all now derived from the Mage firmware. And by default, that's going to provide the core Mage functionality that you're already used to experiencing. Unlike normal modules though, firmware that's dropped during the run never rolls purely positive stats. Every firmware module includes both advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes they're subtle, and sometimes they're very much extreme. You might find firmware that massively boosts mana regeneration while significantly weakening spell damage. Or firmware that transforms the missile launcher into a slow-firing, devastating heavy hitter. The rarer the firmware becomes, the stronger the upsides tend to be, but there will always be trade-offs. The goal is to create items that players deliberately hunt for because they support their specific playstyle and build identity, as opposed to simply number go up. And that leads to the new seasonal mechanic. Season 3 of One More Run, which is being called the Emergence League, does have its own actual league mechanic, which is where you'll be able to farm these firmware. But that's actually where I'm going to stop for now. I'd like to leave a little more to talk about in the next video, where we'll cover the league mechanic, as well as a number of other features that I haven't had a chance to talk about in this initial preview. So, thanks a bunch for checking out One More Run Season 3. I hope you guys will show up for the playtest, and I cannot wait to see how you continue to break my game.